Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today's fly is a little bit of a crossover between a lure and a nymph. It's called the Damsel Tadpole. It was actually developed by a guy that I used to fish with at a local Stillwater called, I only know him as David. The hook in the vise is a Kamasan B800 size 10, which is quite a big hook really. I'm going to run down some 0.4mm lead wire all along the shank. I don't bother sometimes with putting a bed of silk before I add the wire. You'll see soon that it is a pretty basic pattern. I try and keep this fairly level because it seems to work best with a slim parallel body. I'm just pulling the wire tight and using my fingernail to nip it off rather than using your scissors. It doesn't do your scissors a lot of good. So I've got quite a few turns of lead wire there. It is a bit of a beast to cast. I'm just putting some varnish on the lead wire because I've left the wire loose because I like the varnish to sink in. It does tend to sort of hold the lead wire in position as much as you need to be quite honest. So what I'm doing now is wrapping the silk over. It could be any colour you want. I think I've used white here by the looks of it. I use the tag end to go over the top of the wire because this helps the silk stay on top of it and rather than sink into the wire and split the coils apart. I've not seen this tip anywhere else to be honest, but it's something that I use quite regularly. So I'm just nipping off the tag end there. So I'm taking a good section of marabou, olive marabou. I don't like the really bright greens. I like the subtle sombre olives that have got a touch of brown in them. I'm just making a little shuttlecock. I'm sorry you can't see this because of my hands being in the way, but I've just made a little shuttlecock and I've wet the end. I always keep a little pot of water by the side. If you've seen in my previous videos you'll know that it does help keep materials under control, particularly when you've got quite a bulky material like this. So I'm just sort of pinch and looping the marabou in to try and keep it fairly tight. I'm also going to whip a couple of wraps of thread underneath the tail because this fly, with it having such a big tail and being on a long shanked hook, it does sometimes wrap around the hook. You do have to check it every now and again to make sure it's not wrapped round because it doesn't fish anywhere near as well if it's wrapped around. So I'm just keeping that feather fibre out of the way. I'm going to trim up the feather fibre now. I find this is best if I trim it parallel to the body. The idea is to keep this pattern as slim as you can really. Now before I put the wire in, I'm going to just tighten up this feather fibre and sort of flatten it down a bit, but I don't use tight touching turns. I prefer to put the wire in first, then wrap over the wire, going right to the opposite where the barb would be. I pinch the barb down on this pattern and just make sure that this is covered as much as you can really. I usually go up and down the shank a few times just to cover the lead. The varnish should actually seal the lead, but I do it just in case because occasionally it does bleed through. You get this, I believe it's called effervescence. Right, now the dubbing for this is a synthetic seal's fur. I prefer this to actual seal's fur as it's a little bit easier to dub with, but I find that the fibres are a lot finer, so when it sinks through the water it doesn't give as much resistance as seal fur would. But I'm sure seal's fur would work absolutely fine if you've still got some. You could use rabbit for it, you could use any sort of man-made fibre really, but I find this is the best. Although it looks like a golden olive on the camera reel here, it's actually more of a greeny olive. Not a bright green though, a subtle sort of dirty olive colour really. So I'm now dubbing this in a very tight fashion. I keep on making sure I go up and down with my finger and thumb. Now just a tip for dubbing here, always dub in the same direction. I dub, it's difficult to say, I'd say it's anti-clockwise, but keep it in the same direction, because if you find that, I've seen some fly ties go backwards and forwards with it, but keep it turning in the same direction. I'm just using the rotary function on this vise here just to make sure that I'm covering all the lead wire. But as you can see, it's quite a tight body. I've just wet my fingers again because it does need a little bit of moisture, this material. I don't bother using wax a lot of the time. I find it very messy. But this little pot of water that I keep on the fly tying bench is really handy. Just a little reminder, if you do like these videos, please like and subscribe. It does help the channel grow. So I'll continue to make this pretty parallel loop. You'll find with dubbing, if you have got a fairly parallel underbody and you keep the dubbing rope in the same way, as long as you wrap it on around the hook in fairly tight touching turns, you'll get a consistent body. So I've gone a little bit over there. As you can see, I'm just going to take that back a bit because I don't like the way that's working. The idea is, like I say, is to keep this body fairly even and parallel, and not too straggly. You don't want it like a woolly bugger type of fly, because when you're fishing in still waters with this fly especially, you want to get down there, and I find it fishes better probably a foot or two off the bottom. I do use a floating line for this. I'm now ribbing through the fine gold or silver wire. It's up to you. This one is really, I don't think it matters that much. I've also used chartreuse wire to give it a little bit of extra flash. You can see it's trapping down all those fibres. I've counter ribbed it. I've ribbed it in the opposite direction to the way that I'd normally put the thread on, and I'm just trapping that wire now. What I tend to do is sort of helicopter or the wire off rather than use my scissors. I'm just building up a small neat head. It doesn't really matter that much, to be quite honest, as long as the profile's fairly slim and you've got a good sort of fluffy body. You can see there's the odd fibre there that's got like no hurl to it, but you'll find that the fish absolutely rip this fly apart, and even when you've only got a tiny tuft of olive at the back and maybe not a great deal of fur left on the hook, they'll still catch fish. So I'm just applying a couple of whip finishes. I do this, it's a habit really. I do it for my clients, I do it for myself, because I find that the more successful a fly is, the more pulled apart it can get by the trout's teeth. So again, if you've seen any of my other videos, I do use the scalpel quite a lot to trim the thread off, because I find it gets really tight in there. Scalpel blades are pennies really compared to, you know, expensive scissors, and I use one. Just be careful with them, of course, but I use them all the time now. I'm just making sure that tail profile is going to be nice and slim. That's the sort of level that you're looking for when it's flattened down. I think it imitates probably a piece of weed as much as anything, but I've used these in brown and in black, and I find the black one in particular works well when it's a cold sunny day, but the olive is the best all round. It's caught me many double figure fish. So I'm just going to put a little dot of red varnish on now, and the fly's pretty much completed then. I always add red varnish to the flies that have got lead wire or some form of weight in there. It's just my way of telling the difference when they're in the box. I have used this unweighted, but it takes quite a long while to sink. So I've just put a bit of red varnish. I should have used a toothpick really. I tend to use a toothpick most of the time. It's a little bit more controllable. So that's about it really for this video. If you've enjoyed watching it, also if you'd like and subscribe, it does really help the channel grow. I'm intending to tie a few more still water patterns that have been really effective for me over the previous years. This one I've been using for pretty much 25-30 years, something like that. As I say, you can catch 30 or 40 fish in a session on it, but put it on a long leader, let it sink, and just either a slow figure of 8 or very slow pulls, or to be honest, just keep in touch with the line, fish it a bit like a buzzer, and the takes are brilliant. They really do lock up on this fly when they're on it. That's it for now anyway. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe like I say. Okay, thank you, goodbye.